Let's get right into it. Number 12. The pinky swear. This innocent little gesture has a pretty dark backstory. It all started in Japan during the 1600s, where they called it yubikiri. The word literally means finger cut off, and they meant that quite literally. If you broke your promise, you were expected to chop off your pinky finger. The Japanese took promises really seriously. They even had these charming little rhymes to go with it. One basically said, "If you break this promise, you'll have to swallow 1,000 needles." Different cultures picked up this tradition and added their own twists. In South Korea, they don't just hook pinkies. They also touch thumbs afterward, like they're doubling down on the whole, "don't you dare break this promise" thing. These days, it's just a fun thing kids do. Number 11. Chopstick cemetery. In many East Asian cultures, standing chopsticks straight up in a rice bowl is strictly reserved for one thing: offerings to the dead. This was done during funerals, where the bowl was a direct offering. The vertical chopsticks are meant to look like incense sticks, which help guide spirits to the afterlife. Some people say the standing chopsticks create a bridge between our world and the spirit world. In some regions, they believe the vertical chopsticks invite hungry spirits to join your meal. The tradition is so serious that even tourists get gentle corrections from locals when they make this mistake. The proper way to rest your chopsticks is to lay them across your bowl or use a chopstick holder. This keeps the spirits happy and your dinner ghost-free. Number 10. Tossing spilled salt. Back in ancient times, salt wasn't just that white stuff you put on fries. It was literally worth its weight in gold. People would actually get paid in salt instead of money. That's where we get the word salary from. It comes from the Latin word for salt. Spilling salt was like throwing money on the ground. But people believed evil spirits were always lurking around, waiting for moments of waste or misfortune. These spirits would hang out behind your left shoulder, ready to cause chaos. So when someone spilled salt, they'd quickly grab a pinch and toss it over their left shoulder. The idea was that the salt would hit the evil spirit in the face, temporarily blinding it. Think of it as throwing sand in someone's eyes. But the someone is an invisible demon. Number 9. Saying goodbye. In medieval times, every journey could be your last. Roads were filled with bandits, wolves, and dangers that could turn a simple trip into your final adventure. Saying farewell wasn't just a casual, "see ya later." It was more like, "I hope you don't get eaten by wolves on your way home." The word goodbye actually comes from the phrase, "God be with ye." People weren't just being polite. They were literally praying for divine protection. No phones, no GPS, no way to know if your loved ones made it safely. All you could do was ask the big guy upstairs to keep an eye on them. Over time, "God be with ye" got shorter. First it became God bwy in the 1570s. Then it turned into goodbye. The God part changed to good in the late 1600s, making it sound less like a prayer and more like a casual farewell. Number 8. Armored identity check. Imagine you're a knight in shining armor, riding across a medieval battlefield. You spot another armored figure in the distance. Friend or foe? In full armor, it's impossible to tell, as everyone looked the same. Knights would lift their metal visors to show their faces. This wasn't just being friendly, it was proving you weren't an enemy in disguise, and was how you avoided getting turned into a human shish kebab. By lifting your visor, you were making yourself vulnerable by exposing your face to potential attack. This battlefield gesture evolved as society changed. Knights became soldiers, metal helmets became fancy hats, and the visor lift became the hat tip. Even today's military salute comes from this ancient tradition of identity verification. Number 7. Curbside protector duty. Back in the days before proper plumbing, city streets were basically open sewers. People would just toss their waste out of windows without a second thought. We're talking about everything from dirty dishwater to things you definitely don't want landing on your head. This created an interesting social custom. One person, often the man, would walk on the street side of the pavement. Being the person walking closest to the street meant you were a human shield, protecting your companion from whatever might come raining down from above. Think of it like being a human umbrella, but instead of rain, you're blocking something way worse. The person on the inside of the sidewalk stayed clean, while their companion might take a direct hit. This wasn't just about being polite, it was about keeping your loved ones from getting showered with yesterday's soup, or worse. The tradition stuck around even after proper plumbing became a thing. Number 6. Funeral flowers. Back before modern preservation techniques existed, funerals had a rather pungent problem. Bodies would start to decompose almost immediately, and the smell wasn't exactly pleasant for the grieving family and guests. So people got creative with flowers, nature's original air freshener. They would surround the deceased with tons of fragrant blooms to mask the unpleasant aromas. The stronger the scent, the better. Roses, lilies, carnations, anything to overpower nature's less pleasant perfumes. There's a famous story about President Andrew Johnson's funeral in the 1800s. They had to keep bringing in fresh flowers throughout the ceremony because his body wasn't preserved with modern methods. The flowers weren't just for show. They were working overtime as natural air fresheners. Over time, as preservation methods improved, the practical need for flowers disappeared, but people kept bringing them anyway, and the tradition evolved into the symbolic gesture we know today. Number 5. The bridal bouquet. In medieval weddings, the bride walked down the aisle holding what looked like a bunch of garlic and herbs. Back then, when you gathered friends and family for a wedding, things got interesting. The bride's solution was a bouquet of the strongest-smelling herbs she could find. We're talking garlic, dill, and other potent plants that could knock out a horse. It was like a medieval version of Febreze, with bonus features. These herbs weren't just fighting body odor. People believed they could ward off evil spirits. Apparently, demons hate the smell of garlic just as much as vampires do. So there you are, holding your garlic dill combo pack. You're masking Great Uncle Edmund's smell and keeping evil spirits from crashing your wedding. Over time, as soap became more common, these smelly herb bundles evolved into the pretty flower arrangements we see today. Number 4. Royal back turn ban. In royal courts, turning your back on the monarch wasn't just bad manners. It was a serious offense that could cost you everything. Kings and queens were pretty paranoid about people plotting against them. Every little gesture was watched and analyzed for signs of disloyalty. Turning your back wasn't just considered rude. It was seen as a sign that you might be planning something nasty, like pulling out a weapon. So rulers made it a strict rule: never turn your back on them. That meant people had to master the art of walking backwards while bowing. Imagine trying to leave a room without tripping over your fancy robes. One wrong move and you could literally stumble into the dungeon. This rule wasn't just about protecting the monarch physically. It was about power and control. Number 3. Spirit snatching size. The mouth was seen as a magical doorway where your spirit could slip out or where demons could sneak in. People genuinely believed that if you yawned without covering your mouth, some sneaky spirit might just zip right in and take over your body. It's like leaving your front door wide open in a bad neighborhood, except the thieves are invisible, and they're after your soul. And it wasn't just about evil spirits moving in. They thought your own soul might get bored and wander off during a yawn. That's why covering your mouth wasn't just good manners. It was like spiritual security, an ancient anti-theft protection for your soul. Number 2. Bow to authority. Back in medieval times, bowing wasn't just about being polite. It was a survival skill. Imagine walking down a street and suddenly spotting a noble approaching. Your heart starts racing because you know what's expected. Rulers demanded visible proof that you knew your place. Think of it like a forced performance. Bow or face the consequences. These consequences weren't just dirty looks. Some rulers would take serious offense if you didn't bend low enough. The deeper the bow, the safer you were. Failing to bow correctly was sometimes regarded not as a breach of etiquette, but as an act of outright insubordination. This could lead to dungeons, torture chambers, or worse. In ancient courts, people had to study exactly how low to bow for different ranks. Mess up the angle, and you might find yourself explaining why you're not showing proper respect. Number 1. Premeal appeasement. Our ancestors weren't just being polite when they said thank you before meals. They were trying not to get cursed. Back then, every meal was a dangerous game of chance. Bad harvests, poisonous plants, and hunting accidents were common threats, so people figured they better make nice with whatever forces controlled their food supply. They believed angry spirits could poison their food, ruin future harvests, or make their hunting trips fail. In ancient Rome, families would literally set aside portions of their meals on little altars. It was like paying protection money to supernatural loan sharks. Native American tribes had similar customs. They'd ask forgiveness from the animal spirits after a successful hunt, because nobody wants an angry deer ghost haunting their dinner table. Medieval European farmers blessed their food before, during, and after cooking. The stakes were pretty high. Skip the pre-meal ritual and watch your carefully stored grain mysteriously rot. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.